So guys, Gaijin apparently is testing a game mode to use strategic bombers in it, which is pretty cool. According to the latest leaks that we talked about yesterday, they are indeed internally testing how a mode of strategic bombers would be actually in-game. How, when, if at all this thing is gonna be added, we don't know. But a little bit, I can only imagine how it would be, but the main thing is, what is the aircraft that we might actually see? I'm gonna give you 5 examples, and what is basically this mode? Well, we cannot know for sure, right? And we're gonna try to answer the second question first. So how a mode like that can actually work? So I don't know how they are testing this, but at the end of the day, guys, there isn't a lot of options. I think the main one is obviously basically an air spawn with the payload, and you have to get to a certain place to drop your bombs. That's a very easy and very, straightforward mission that they can actually test it out, right? How this can actually work against very advanced aircraft, well, it depends. First things first, guys, you gotta remember that although the BRs sometimes are aligned with the dates of these aircrafts into production and everything, it's not a rule. You will see, for example, an M109 fighting Tiger 1s just because it is on the BR sake of that aircraft. So of course, with the right BR, I honestly think that any aircraft can be added to the game. Of course, if very modern strategic bomber is added against the very modern aircraft that we have in the game, it will probably not have a good time. Okay, so how I think they're gonna add this is, like I said, a very simple mission with the proper BR implemented with fighters and everything to counter these bombers. Maybe with a lot of AI flying around, maybe it gets a lot of points, I don't know. We're gonna have to wait and see, but I think a very simple mission here with the right BRs can already be enough, maybe if tested correctly and implemented correctly, to add these aircraft that are so loved. A lot of people love these things. So I'm gonna give you 5 examples of aircraft that would have a place in the game for one reason or another. We start off with the B-52, obviously. The B-52, and by the way, just a small disclaimer, don't take these numbers that I'm gonna talk about too seriously, right? But because it's basically coming from wiki, it might be wrong, etc., depends on version. But it should carry around 32,000 kilograms, the B-52, right, of bombs. So it's a very, 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 very heavy payload. Nothing can even compare in the game of 32 tons of explosives, right? So at the end of the day, guys, it is something that would create a lot of havoc, right? But the B-52 is very easy to shoot down, especially with missiles. How could actually be added? Well, ECM could be a thing, guys. That's the thing. ECM was used with the B-52s and many other bombers together with a lot of countermeasures to make it a little bit more survivable. In real life, of course, these ECMs and everything, they could work, but it's nothing like, it's not gonna prevent the bomber to be shot down. But in the game, maybe they can boost it up a little bit of the performance of these ECMs and other countermeasures to make sure that these bombers stay alive, at least from missiles, right? So that it actually has some form of a chance to fight against the fighters, right? The second option that I would actually include here is a THO-95. This one apparently takes around 25 tons of bombs, which is a lot as well, but a lot less than the B-52. And the main thing about the THO-95, it is a slower aircraft and basically older design, kind of. The idea here is that it would have a lower BR fighting, since it's, a different type of aircraft, being a prop and everything. It should be fighting lower ranks, for example, although still being able to be added. Although, I gotta be honest, it's not that slow, okay? It takes less bombs and stuff, but it flies at around 925 kilometers per hour, while the B-52, for example, flies at around, 1050 max like really max speed, right? So it's not that different, even though it is a prop aircraft, right? So it can be added both in the around the same BR, the same countermeasures, stuff like that, right? Another option would be, of course, the Vulcan. The Vulcan is a bit different. The Vulcan, it's an aircraft that it is pretty old. You know, it was like, it's basically a mid-50s aircraft, right? But it has kind of a very different design, which will make it very easy to shoot down because of the size and everything. But at the same time, it still flies at around the same speed, you know. It can carry around, let's say, 10,000 kilograms. It's a smaller aircraft. It's a lot lighter than the other ones that we were talking about, but it's still just such a cool design. And again, with the right countermeasures and everything, I have to check if these aircraft actually use any countermeasures like that. But at the end of the day, it could be actually a pretty interesting bomber as well. Again, guys, I honestly think that if it has the right BR, these things can be added. Of course, they're not going to be facing 14.0s. They're going to be facing what? 9 point something, maybe even lower. So it's not going to be that OP. Then we go a little bit into the future of these bombers and two options of what really is the modern day strategic bomber. I'm not gonna even call it this. I mean, they are considered strategic bombers, but they are more of a different type of weapon. And the first one is the THO Blackjack, right? This can carry an enormous amount of payload, and it is supersonic. So it carries around 40,000 kilograms of bombs. Some sources even claim 45, so it depends on source and everything. But it can go up to Mach 2.05 at altitude, right? So it's a very fast aircraft with a pretty okay rate of climb as well. Very, very strong engines. And yeah, modern day countermeasures and everything. So it can have a higher BR. This is the type of aircraft that I think is gonna be the strategic bombers that we see in the higher BRs, right? Something that has very modern day countermeasures, but it's still fast. You can fly low and very, very, very fast, which means that you can deploy the bombs flying very, very fast. That's the main thing, right? So it has a chance, basically, just like a tornado, that it has a chance with the right BR as well to do well. Another one, and the last one that I wanted to talk about, is of course the B-1 Lancer. This is another version of an aircraft that it's a more modern strategic kind of idea of a bomber, right? And of course with this, the idea is very similar to the TU-160, right? It can carry, you know, a very large amount of bombs as well. And the main thing is that it is maybe not as fast as the TU-160, but it's still very fast, plus Mach 1, and it can do basically the same, you know. It will be less strong, the terms, I guess, you know, they say it's less, you know, powerful in the terms of speed and everything. Still carries 35,000 kilograms of bombs, so it is still pretty, you know, pretty strong on that regard. So it is an aircraft that, these aircraft are the future of strategic bombers, and they are the ones that maybe we will have a chance of having it in the game fully, you know, having in a normal match, because then they are fast enough with the right BR to stay low, to get away from missiles, to have enough countermeasures and speed to get away from targets. These things can be 10.0, 11.0, maybe even higher depending on the countermeasures that they add. But again, with the right BR, these things can come. And that's kind of my idea with these strategic bombers. Let me know in the comments what is yours. We probably will see these at a certain point in the game anyway, you know. I have a feeling that a lot of people want these, so Gaijin will try to get them into the game, but we need to wait a little bit, right? So yeah, hopefully these internal tests that they are doing go great. And yeah, I see you guys on the next one. Make sure to subscribe. Let me know in the comments what you think about the massive strategic bombers of the Cold War. See you guys. Bye.